My name is Hassan, guys. So I'll be presenting this paper here. The name of the paper is Predicting Ground Level Scene Layout from Aerial Imagery. So this is the objective. Actually, we have an aerial image and we want to predict the corresponding ground level segmentation with the help of this aerial image. So this is how it goes. So this is an overhead image and this is the corresponding predicted ground level labeling, and this is the actual ground level image corresponding to that.
Again, the labeling means the semantic segmentation.
Labeling means the semantic segmentation, or authors keep on using different words for that: semantic segmentation, semantic labeling, and layout, another word.
And what are the colors?
So this green color here is a vegetation, and that one is red one is the like roads. So there is one more actually. The blue color will come later on. So it is actually the man-made, like buildings and things like that. Okay, so this is the overall architecture, the training architecture. This is how it goes. We have an overhead image, aerial image. We apply VGG16, first 4 layers, and extract the features, and we get the corresponding aerial segmentation. On the other hand, we have the corresponding ground level image. We apply a pre-trained segnet. This is a very important point. This is a pre-trained segnet, and this is trained on some other data set, not the CV USA data set, which they are working on. This is trained on like cityscapes, and these are trained weights. This is a trained model they are using here right now. So what happens is we get the corresponding ground level segmentation. So now the point comes, we want to compare that aerial layout with this layout, and we cannot do that without the change of perspective. Like we need to change the perspective of this aerial segmentation so that we can compare and we can compute the loss. For that matter,
one thing, so these are the pair. One image is overhead image, taking exactly same location, but the air. The other image is the street view image, which is on bottom.
Yeah.
And that image is taking exactly same location, but on the ground. So we want to, when we do segmentation, then we want the segmentation of ground level image and segmentation of the aerial image projected on the ground should be very similar.
yeah, yeah. So actually the take-home point is that these two images they are like they work as a pair. So and these two images are aligned. How they do the alignment, we'll look into that later on. So what we do, we apply a transformation to this aerial segmentation like this, and after that we get the ground level predicted segmentation, and this is where we can apply cross entropy loss. So this is the overall training architecture of the system. One more thing to understand is what is ground truth here. Actually what happens is, generally in semantic labeling things, we have a data set and we do the careful labeling of that data set, and after that careful labeling we get the like ground truth. But in this case we don't have that kind of careful labeling. What the authors are doing, they are using CV USA and without any kind of labeling. There is no manual labeling. So question is that what they are calling the ground truth now here. So what happens is, they apply pre-trained segnet, as I told you earlier, and it is trained on some other data set, not on the CV USA data set. And after the application of pre-trained segnet, whatever comes out, this is the ground level layout, they take it as the ground truth. So actually this is a very important point. So their data set, ground level data set is not labeled.
Yeah, so the main thing is that since the segment is a very pre-trained, do training, then you need annotation. There are lots of images at the ground level which are available in their pre-training, or they want to use that to just as a testing to get the ground level segmentation. But they cannot do this for the aerial because there isn't any segment or any system which is trained on the overhead image.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main point. So we want to leverage this, that we can take a ground level image, get a segmentation using segment as a system, and then do the segmentation of the overhead image as a weekly random, and that's the point.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so this is a little detailed view of the algorithm. So we get an aerial image, we apply VG16 first 4 layers, we get the feature maps, and these are actually like 960 feature maps, activation maps, and we arrange them in the form of a hypercolumn. And actually, we obtain this hypercolumn by downsampling the activation maps, which are like bigger in size. So we get 17 into 17 into 960 hypercolumn, and we apply a network A to that. What comes out of network A is the aerial segmentation. We'll go into the detail of network A. And similarly, for the last activation map, 512 activation map, which is the output of VG16, we take this, we apply another network to that. We apply another network to that, to these 512 activation maps, we apply another network, and whatever comes out, this is a 17 to 17 to 1 feature map, and we reshape it in the form of 1 by 1 by 289, like this. And this is the input for our network F, which is another convolution network. So the output we get from this is a transformation matrix. So this is the transformation matrix which will be applied to aerial layout, and we'll get the corresponding ground level layout, which is predicted. So how we get the transformation matrix, what network A is doing, what network S is doing, and what network F is doing, all of these things are further details. We'll go into that shortly.
We want to talk about
And
the board.
yeah, and one important thing, there is some attachment of these coordinates. These coordinates are like 1 into 1 by 1 by 4. So how we attach these coordinates, this is one of the most important thing of this paper. So actually this is the thing which takes some time to understand. So we'll go into the detail of this, how we attach these coordinates here.
So this just abstractly, so ij is a coordinate of the area.
Ij is the
yx is the corresponding coordinate
of the ground level
of the
layout.
ground level.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. Okay. Yeah, what are these things?
So these are different. These are different dimensions. Like the aerial layout we get, its dimensions are 17 to 17, and the network A has 3 convolution layers, and each one of them is 512 kernels of with the receptive field of 1 by 1. Then 512 kernels, receptive field of 1 by 1. Then four convolution kernels with receptive field of 1 by 1. And similarly, our network S has an architecture. Network F is 128 convolution 1 by 1 layers, and 64 convolution 1 by 1, and 1 convolution 1 by 1. So we'll go into the details of these networks shortly. So how do we minimize the distance between the predicted layout and the actual layout which is being predicted by the SAGNet? So we apply the cross entropy loss here, as we discussed earlier. So this is actually the ground level layout which is being which is given by the SAGNet, and this is the layout which is being predicted from the aerial image after the application of that transformation matrix. So we apply the cross entropy loss to this, and we get the corresponding loss.
So these classes, there are 4 classes.
There are four classes there, yes. So how does the network A looks like? So network A is applied to hypercolumn. So that hypercolumn is of dimensions 17 by 17 by 960, as we know that. So this is the input for network A. So network A is of 512 kernels of receptive field 1 by 1 applied to this hypercolumn. So what we get is 512 activations out of that. Each of them is of spatial size 17 by 17. Then once again 512 kernels of receptive field 1 by 1 are applied to these 512 activations, and we once again get 512 activations which are of size 17 by 17. And finally 4 kernels of 1 by 1 receptive field are applied to these 512 output, 512 activations output, and we get 17 by 17 by 4. This 17 by 17 by 4 is actually the aerial segmentation, which we are interested in from the aerial image. Like the aerial image, we take the aerial image and we convert it into the segmentation. So this is that segmentation.
There are
that
4
part.
classes, that's why we have 4.
Yeah. So we have 4 different classes. So we are getting 4 different activation maps here.
So you need to also explain how do you do the interpolation from VGG. So that's the.
Actually, they are applying pixel-net approach here. There is an other technique which is pixel-net. So
VGG has these channels. So what you do is you do the interpolation. These are different layers
yes.
to the cursor, or different size.
Yes.
So you map it to the same size, but the number of channels is the same.
Yeah.
In total, you get a 960 channels there.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So this is how network S looks like. So we take the last 512 activation maps from VG16 and we apply 128 convolution one by one, then 64 convolutions one by one with the one by one receptive field, and finally we get 17 by 17 by 1, and we reshape that into that shape we discussed earlier. So actually this 17 by 17 by 1 activation map, it contains all the global information of the aerial image. So we will use that for constructing our transformation matrix. So this will be used for constructing the transformation matrix later on. And this is actually the input for the network F. And how we will construct that input, that is one other interesting part of this paper.
So this can be treated like a feature vector.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So here we are reading. This is actually encoding all the features of the aerial image. So how we determine the size of the transformation matrix? So idea is that transformation matrix operates upon the segmentation which is being predicted. Actually the aerial segmentation, transformation matrix is multiplied with the aerial segmentation, and whatever we get, that thing is the ground level predicted layout, right? So these two things are important. This is I sub A and I sub G. Our transformation matrix M will operate upon I sub A. This is I sub A. This is actually this 17 by 17 by 1 is the feature map which we just discussed. Like there's the aerial segmentation. You know, the output of the network A. There were 4 different activation maps. We are just showing one of them here, which is 17 by 17 by 1. So actually there are 3 more, but whatever the process will tell, equally true for the other 3 activation maps. So transformation matrix will be multiplied by 17 by 17 by 1. And when we vectorize this, we'll get a 289 dimensional column vector. And that column vector, when multiplied with this matrix, we'll get another column vector, and its dimensions are 320. And that 320 is what we are looking for. This 320 will be reshaped into the form of 8 into 40. So this is the output after this multiplication. So this M has 320 rows, 289 columns. When multiplied with 17 by 17 by 1, we get a 320 dimensional column vector. And when reshaped, we get 8 by 40 by 1. So that is the output we are interested in. This is I sub G, which is the ground level prediction. So this clearly tells what is the dimension of matrix M. So matrix M must be 320 by 289 in this case. So how we construct the input for network F? You remember the network F is responsible for creating the transformation matrix. So this is network S. This is 17 by 17 by 1. We get out of this network S, you know, we applied that network S to 512 feature vectors, which we got from VG16. Reshape that into this form, and then we construct this cube. We are duplicating the same vector again and again for constructing the cube. This is the input for network F, but we are not done here. We have to apply the coordinates here, and that is the actual regularization we are applying here. We have to put the coordinates like.
Yeah, can you go slow down because that's important. Go back up all the way. So yeah, here now go to the next one.
Yes.
Okay, so go to the next one. Yeah. So this is you put that 289 dimensional vector, and what's the dimension of this thing? How many rows, how many columns?
This one?
Yeah.
Its dimensions are, since this thing is supposed to be converted into transformation matrix, so its dimensions are 320, like height is 320, width is 289, And depth is 289 because we are putting this in this form like as channel wise.
Okay.
So this will be 289 as well.
So you just take the same thing, you just keep putting, just repeat.
Yeah, we are just duplicating that. We are just putting it in this form.
So you're putting the feature vector or global representation of the aerial image and populate this
Yeah, exactly.
element of this tensor. Okay, good.
So these are the dimensions. So one part like I would like to re-emphasize, this thing is supposed to be converted into the transformation matrix, right? So two dimensions are very clear from that. Like the dimensions of the transformation matrix were 320 by 289. So that is quite clear from here. Now we attach the 4 coordinates with this, and we will increase like channel wise, we will increase the depth by 4, like this. That is the input for network F. Network F will operate upon this. Obviously, there are some correlation layers which will be operated upon this cube, and this coordinate information will be blended in. Like this is very important. This kind of regularization we want because we want to convert the aerial segmentation into corresponding ground level segmentation. So it must know that which coordinate goes where, which coordinates contribute in the construction of the output pixel, which output pixel is constructed with the
in this cube, those are the only things which are changing, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
as you say, you duplicate all these 289 vectors, they are same.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Exactly.
The only difference is that each of these pixel pair is duplicated to make sure that this will lead to the transformation
Yes.
matrix.
Yes. Exactly.
Very nice figures which Dr. Chen has created.
Yeah.
I think it's much better than the
Yeah.
authors.
Yeah. Exactly. So very special thanks to Dr. Chen for that. Actually,
That's what the beauty of science is, that other scientists will be able to explain somebody else's paper better. That's what excitement is. Okay, good.
okay. So important point here is everything is duplicated. Only the coordinates are different. So that's why I said the coordinates are working as sort of some kind of regularization here. Okay, so this is how network F works. This is the input we just constructed for the network F, and this is how it looks like. Network F is 128 kernels with the receptive field one by one, with the receptive field 1 by 1, and we'll apply that to 320 into 289. Like you know, we are not mentioning the channels here. It goes like that in convolution layers. So 320 by 289 activations, and we apply 128 convolution 1 by 1 filters to this, and we get 128 activation maps, right? And then we apply 64 convolutions, each with receptive area 1 by 1 to this same same spatial dimensions 320 by 289 from the previous layer, and we get 64 activations. And then we once again apply one convolution kernel with receptive field 1 by 1 to this thing, and we get 320 into 289 and to 1. Guess what happens here? This is the transformation matrix. This is what we are looking for. This contains everything. The coordinate information has been blended into this thing. So now this transformation matrix knows when it will be applied to the aerial segmentation, it can transform that aerial segmentation into corresponding ground level predicted segmentation because information is in there. It has been blended in.
And this transformation matrix will depend on particular area image,
Yes.
right? It will change.
Another very important point is this. For every input aerial image, that transformation matrix will change. That's the beauty of this transformation matrix.
F is a fully connected network, right? It's not a one-by-one convolution?
No, it is 1 by 1 convolution, not fully connected.
So it says the base network F is a multi-layer perceptron.
MLP, so just a name, the multi-layer perceptron.
So that the
It's a
ALP
fully connected. Yeah, multi-layer perceptron is fully connected.
It's usually multi-layer, it's usually two connected layers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
you can have as many layers as you want.
No, like usually the naming MLP means to put.
Yeah, okay, so let's come back to that later. Let it finish there. Okay.
okay, so how to determine the coordinates? The coordinates we attach with this cube, how can we determine that? Okay, recall that we're supposed to multiply that transformation matrix with the areal segmentation, right? And we get this 320 dimensional column vector out of that. And we reshape that in the form of 8 by 40 by 1, and this is our predicted ground level segmentation. So this is just for recalling. Question is that how we determine the coordinates. So this is ith row. This is areal segmentation. I survey. This is the areal segmentation. So I is the row, J are the columns, and this is like we are showing it in the colored form. So every one of them is a row. So when we vectorize this, it looks like this. This is a 289 dimensional column vector, and where every row has been like transformed in the form of a, like when we vectorize it. So this is where first row comes. This is where next row comes, and we are actually interested in these coordinates. That's why we are showing it like that. So from 0, 0 to 0, 1, 6. Why? Because there are 17 of them. From 1, 0 to 116, and so on. From 16, 0 to 16, 16. Okay, when this thing is multiplied with our transformation matrix, we get 320 dimensional column vector, and which is reshaped into the form of the output, right? Okay, so these are the coordinates of this 320 dimensional output vector from 0, 0 to 0, 39. Like when we reshape that in the form of 8 by 40, it will look like this, but in the column vector form, it will look like this. Okay, so this is where that coordinate, the understanding of the coordinates go. One row of the transformation matrix multiplied with the vectorized representation of areal segmentation gets to decides actually 1 pixel in the output. One such multiplication, actually a row vector multiplied with a column vector, and we decide one pixel based upon this multiplication. So actually what is happening, each row of the transformation matrix is weighting, it's weighting of the areal segmentation. Each row of the transformation matrix is weighting the areal segmentation, and we get 1 output pixel out of that. Similarly, another row, another pixel in the output. So actually point is that every pixel in the areal segmentation is involved in deciding 1 pixel in the output. Every pixel in the areal segmentation is involved in deciding 1 pixel where it should go in the output and how it should look like. Okay, so this is important. These are where the coordinates are going. So look at this part, ij part. Ij part is changing 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 16, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 16 all the way. But the other part is not changing. Other part remains the same because we want this multiplication to decide 1 pixel. Which pixel? 0, 0. 0, 0 output pixel. We want this thing to decide this 1 multiplication, 1 row multiplied with the vectorized representation of the areal segmentation. One such multiplication will place 1 pixel in the appropriate position, and so on with the other one. So this is what is happening. This is our areal segmentation. This is one of the rows of the transformation matrix, and after this multiplication, we get 1 pixel in the rightful position, right? This is another way of showing this transformation matrix. Like here what we are doing, we are showing one row which is 289 dimensional, actually 289 columns are there. We are showing one row as a cell, as a 17 by 17 cell. So if we like zoom into one of them, for example this red one here, so this is where activity is happening. This is like, these are the weights.
So you take that row, reshape
Reshape.
the size of the area,
Mhm.
and then it shows you which pixels are active or contributing to a particular pixel in the ground.
Exactly, exactly. So when we multiply this thing with the aerial segmentation, this is where the weight goes. Like these things weighted more. Why? Because this is where the activity is happening. So it corresponds to this area
So
in
it's
the
like
output.
attention.
Yeah, this is a tension map, you can say. Like, this is where the attention goes in the output predicted labeling. So this is pretty much it about the transformation matrix, and this is how we construct the transformation matrix. So data set, they are using CV USA, and there are approximately 1.5 million geotagged images, and they use the panorama images of the CV USA as their ground level images. Aerial images are zoom level 19, and there are 35,532 image pairs for training and 8,884 image pairs for testing in CV USA. This is how the alignment is done here. This is the aerial image, and the red arrow points towards north, and correspondingly on the panorama, the red arrow, corresponding to this red arrow, we have this red column in the middle. So this is north, the aerial image. So this alignment is actually very important. So they aligned the images. So this is the correspondence establishment. Like this view is the ground view panorama, and this one is the aerial image. This is how they establish the corresponding. Like this area in the ground image looks like this from the aerial image, from the aerial view. Similarly, red one, this area is here. How do they decide that? This can be a good question. They decide because of that transformation matrix multiplication. That transformation matrix will tell like which area corresponds to where.
So as you see that this mapping is not linear, it's a non-linear mapping, and actually it's not possible to come up with parametric transformation like applying the So that's why this is being learned, and that's I think a very interesting thing.
Some more mappings, similarly with some other image pair, same mappings. Evaluation and application. One of them is weakly supervised learning. So thus just one image tells us that after this training we are able to segment the aerial image reasonably well. So the point which I want to make here is aerial image was never annotated. They were not labeled. But what we are getting here, we are getting aerial labeling. Because of that weak supervision, we are able to get the aerial labeling here, which looks reasonably well. Like this is road, red one is road, that is vegetation. Blue one is the man-made, like buildings and whatever is man-made.
So weak supervision means that even though they don't have the annotations of segmentation for the aerial image, but they have pairs, aerial, sematics, and the ground level image. So, and the ground level image was trained on the ground truth on the aerodynamic data set. So that's why it's a weak image. It's not fully supervised, weakly supervised.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so they also try to use their network as pre-trained model. What they did, they compared it with two different approaches. The data set they use for this purpose is ISPRS, and two other techniques are VGG16, and the other one is Xavier initialization, like simple initialization without the way the Xavier initialization works. So this is one of the images of ISPRS dataset. Like it looks like this, but when we apply some image processing techniques, which they did, like they make it look like the Bing view image, and this is the ISPRS ground level segmentation, labeled ground level segmentation. So this is the output after the application to ISPRS dataset. So for their pre-trained weights, they are getting reasonably good results as compared to random and VG16. This is a graphically. So orientation estimation. So what they are doing is they are using their approach for estimating the orientation of the ground level image. So what they do is they get the ground level, they get the Curie image, ground level image, they get the corresponding aerial image, they get the segmentation of the aerial image, segmentation of the aerial image and the corresponding ground level image. They get the segmentation of the ground level image from the segnet. They calculate the cross entropy between them, like in a sliding window fashion, and the smallest entropy is actually where the what is the location. So this is how it looks like. Corresponding your straight view image, its corresponding aerial image, straight view segmentation, corresponding aerial segmentation, and this is the sliding window thing they are doing on this, and orientation is where the entropy is minimized. Some more results. So geocalibration, the same approach they are applying, but for different locations. Like they are calculating the sub windows and applying the orientation estimation technique to different areas, and the ground truth is this blue, green frustum is the ground truth, and the blue frustum is the predicted. And ground level image synthesization, they are using their approach for synthesizing ground images, like with the help of their trained network. So this is how it looks like. They have a ground image, they have an aerial image corresponding ground image, and this is the predicted synthesized, actually, ground image, which they synthesized with the help of their approach. Another example of the same thing. Conclusion is that a novel strategy to relate aerial level imagery and the ground level imagery, and prediction of the ground level imagery with the help of aerial imagery, and they also showed the geocalibration with their technique and the appearance synthesization of the ground level images.
Okay, good.